What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the on the channel. I keep saying we're not the Hoops. We're not the Hoop Show anymore. We are
there's
the Hoops
an
Crew.
adjustment period there.
There's a little adjustment period there, but we are the Hoops Crew channel, and we are doing a summer series. I don't know if we've got other than it's not really a name other than it's a summer series. Anyway, my name is Ben. This is Paul. Today we're here to talk about some thoughts on the AFL fixture or fixturing. So as per normal, if you've seen any of these other episodes, we've got 10 questions. I'm going to ask Paul the question. He's going to give me a ridiculous answer, and I'm going to come back and tell him the right answer. No, it's not true or false. It is very much a discussion. But truth be told, I'm probably the one that's a bit nuts, and Paul will probably call it the right way.
I'm the cool head.
Are you ready to go, Paul? You're the cool head of the crew. Let's do it. First question is, do we like... And you can answer this from yourself, but do we like the floating fixture from round 16 onwards?
I mean, in terms of what's floating about it, like we don't actually know who we're playing at all at the moment, or is it we know who we're playing, but we don't know when or where?
We don't know when, and we kind of know where-ish because it's
you can kind of guess based on who's the home team. So.
But you can't plan a trip necessarily unless you're retired and you can spend a week somewhere. That's no big. But no, you can't really book flights. You could be playing on a Thursday for all we know.
Yeah, so I think that you still. Yeah, you can't quite plan it because if you're suddenly on a Thursday, then that's a bit of an issue for people with logistics and those sort of people who've got to work. So I guess I don't love it through that lens. Otherwise, I like the idea that the AFL can manipulate it to kind of help improve the theatre of everything, but you're potentially coming at the expense of people being able to attend the game in the first place. So it becomes a bad idea.
Especially if you're travelling interstate on a Thursday, which I think Geelong has 1 or 2 games next year where we're playing on a Thursday, interstate. If you're playing on a Thursday, state versus state, like Geelong versus Footscray, Western Bulldogs, whatever, I think I can handle that. But no, if you have to make plans, you can't be taking Thursday, Friday, Monday off work.
Exactly. Because you're guessing.
Maybe you could say, look, I'm going to take Friday off work, get up there by lunchtime Friday for the Friday night game. I don't know if it's Friday night. I don't know if it's Sunday twilight, but I'm going to I'm going to get an early flight and miss half a day work on Monday. I would much rather know. I'm more happy to have the final 3 or 4 rounds as floating, but I don't really like the 8 or 9, whatever it is, to finish the year off.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's too much. It's too much, if you ask me. All right, now, does the AFL have too many or not enough themed rounds? So I'm going to say, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you take this one straight away.
So I'm trying to think of all the different themed rounds that we've got.
So Doug Nichols is one, is the big one.
Which is absolutely one of the most important, but it's a weird one in that sense that it kind of gets stretched out because clubs want to be able to play with their jumper in front of their home crowd and those. So there's weirdness around that, despite the fact that it's obviously a brilliant round for an amazingly important round. So I'm wondering if it doesn't officially just become 2 rounds, and so then just within that block of 2 weeks, the AFL fixturing, they ensure that a team plays 1 home and 1 away in that period, so they've got the opportunity, if they're an interstate team or if they're Geelong, I guess, because Geelong kind of fits that same, technically classified the same way, where we've got our home ground in Geelong, that you get an opportunity somewhere within that 2-week block to play in front of your home crowd with your designed Indigenous jersey. Maybe that's
still relatively new, isn't it? Not every club had an Indigenous Guernsey up until a few years ago.
And we're starting to see, like Melbourne, with Nam, and apologies for
Freo.
Yartapulti, but I don't know. That's Port, I think.
I think so.
Was it
Freo? No, someone. Sorry,
there's only 3 clubs that are embracing it, I think, at this point in the naming, and that's Melbourne, Port, and I think and Freo, and Yartapulti is one of them, but I can't remember which the 2 instances.
And we play around with Geelong, but we don't actually have it. We don't change our name for the day.
Geelong could potentially do it, But then the problem you've got is all these other Victorian-based teams that are all in the actual same spot, like they are in Melbourne as well as Melbourne. Like North Melbourne, do they call themselves North Narm? Like, it actually sounds like you're taking the piss out of the whole thing at that point, which you don't want either. So
I'm going to straighten you up a little bit, Paul, because you've drifted a little bit. But I want you to. I'm going to throw a few more. You've got Anzac round. You've got. We don't have a rainbow round. Some other sports do. What else?
And the women's does, doesn't it?
I think it does. Yes. Do we have multicultural round? I don't think we have heritage round anymore, even though we have our country game and all that sort of stuff. But I love
heritage round's done.
Rivalry round.
One of our
these things official?
It was family round back in the day, which was
opening round is probably the big one now. Now we've got round 0, whatever that means. But yeah, so
gather round.
Well, I think that's a popular one. I don't think you're getting too many people saying scrap that one. So,
except for all the people who can't go to the footy that weekend.
Well, I was about to say. On a sad note, I couldn't get a ticket, so I will not be making the road trip. If you are a loyal watcher of this show and you've heard me talking about planning to make a road trip, but. I reckon you could squeeze one more in, Paul. One more theme round. That's my personal opinion. I would like to see a bit of love shown to the LGBTIQ community. I think that's probably the one area that maybe we're missing. But I don't know. What do you think, Paul?
No, I'm inclined to agree. I think that's a really important one. At the moment, there's really only one game within the men's side. Sorry, specifically, there's only one game that really does that, and that's the Sydney St Kilda game. Where the representation's great within that one game, but then you just get bullshit from people going, they're the go teams, and that's sort of that absolute trash. So, so I think it probably becomes more important to make a full round of that one. And I think obviously St Kilda and Sydney need to be teams that play off in that round guaranteed, maybe every year, because they've kind of been leading it for years. But then I think every other team, I think if you get everyone else involved, that adds to, I guess, the significance and sends a stronger message to those arseholes in the community. So that should come along. But otherwise, I'd like to see things like Heritage Round return. I like that we kind of honour it and keep it going, but it's largely fizzled out. But it shouldn't have. Yeah. I want to know what Family Round was, because as I was scrolling through stuff for our last episode, I found Family Round. Was that just bring the kids? We've
got to keep Country Round going, because Tom Hawkins will kick 7 goals. I think we should have 2 Country Rounds a year. 8, I think a year. That's right.
It was 8 and then 7.
We must keep Country Round. All right. Will the fans respond to more Thursday night footy in 2024? I don't know about you. I think we've talked about on previous episodes, you've got a young family. It's going to be very tricky to get to games on a Thursday night. But overall, though, do you think fans are going to enjoy it on the telly? Is it going to be too much footy?
I don't think it's a big issue, because the AFL kind of they recognise the challenges with it, especially in Melbourne, and so the Thursday night games are typically interstate. I'm not sure if you'd notice that pattern, but they're always going for interstate games, because your Freo audience, just to pluck a team out at random, they'll be like, great, we don't get multiple games here around. If you're a neutral, you might come along and see it just because it's the only game that's in town for the week. And so Thursday night, okay, well, great, we can do that, and we can be pretty confident we're going to get a big crowd, we're going to get close to capacity for whatever the stadium happens to be. Whereas Melbourne, maybe not, because you've got so many games to go to over the weekend. If you're a neutral, great, you've probably got your own team that you can go see on the Saturday or whatever the case happens to be. So it's a safe bet to go with the Thursdays. It's a very smart way to introduce it.
It's also an opportunity for those interstate teams that maybe don't get the national TV time that a lot of the Victorian teams might. We get to see a bit more of Fremantle. I mean, maybe you don't want to see Fremantle, but I'd like to see a bit of every team. Maybe not every week, but you don't want to go through a whole season. Get to the finals and who? I don't even know these players. I want to see a few games on TV throughout the year, so that does open it up to that, I suppose.
Hell with Hawthorn, though. We don't need to see any of them.
We do not. I don't mind sitting back on a Sunday afternoon watching Hawthorn getting smashed. That seems to be that's a nice fixture, that one. Finishing off your weekend watching Hawthorn get smashed in a twilight game on Sunday. I love that. Keep that going if we can. All right. Will we ever see It's sort of on the same Thursday thing, but are we going to see 7 days of football? Now, I'm not talking about footy festivals, that kind of thing. I'm talking
And
about
not the COVID years.
no. I'm talking about bookending the whole season, whatever, 6 months, 7 months, whatever it is. There's a game on pretty much. Maybe there's a break or two here or there, but there's essentially a game on every single day, night,
The NBA model.
of the week. Yes, the NBA model.
I hope not.
Can you see it happening? Do you want to see it happening?
No, I don't think it will happen because the competition's not big enough, and I hope it doesn't happen because fatigue is real. Also makes our footy tipping and our super coaches and all those sort of things. Oh,
can you imagine? I think it'll happen one day. It may not. I don't know if it'll get to 7, but I think you're going to see Thursday night footy every single week within 10 years. I think
for sure.
I think that's a guarantee.
That takes it to 4 outside of the occasional Monday or a year.
Yeah, then it's probably Monday the next one, isn't it?
That sort of thing.
It's probably your standalone Monday night game. Is that going to happen? Maybe. Look, I think at most we'll probably get 5 days of footy a week, a couple of days break. Maybe for some people that's even too much. I can't get 2 days with no footy. I'm used to my daily diet of footy.
4 on 3 off is the right. 4 on 3 off is the right balance. Let's go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then get some time to digest it all.
I think we're being trained to accept Thursday is the future. So whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. I think that's where the future is going. Where? All right. Should teams play each other twice? Oh, here we go. Should teams play each other twice in a 34-round season? Now, this question is a little bit layered, but I'll let you try and answer it as you see it, I suppose.
I mean, the players just couldn't handle it. You hear the AFLPA all the time in terms of just like the length of games coupled with the number of games, just the injuries and that sort of thing. Like the list would need to be way longer. The depth is not there, across the nation to allow for that. So the quality of the games would drop. You're going to have an NBA situation where your marquee players aren't playing from time to time.
That's probably where I was going to lead you, Paul. Is that something like load management, players being rested to get through more games in a season fixture?
Which provides more dead rubbers and those, like, it's just, no.
Yeah, true. Which will feed the appetite of the hungry footy fan.
And I think about some friends who went over to the US and they wanted to see LeBron. And they had booked their tickets way out to go see the Lakers game. And that was going to be awesome until he didn't play that game.
That would kill you, wouldn't it?
And, it's because you got to manage the players. And, there's obviously a degree of that within the AFL, but, maybe it's round 23 or something like that, just to prep them before finals. Well, that's all right. Just come back next week and you get to see the big show I guess 2 weeks later because we'll have a week off. It's maybe a little bit more understood. The final game before the season, clubs get a bit creative, but random game early in the season. Oh, LeBron's not playing. Why? I spent thousands of dollars to get these seats. And I miss out on the attracting factor. Like it's bullshit there. And I don't want to see it happen here. So the 23, 24, whatever, plus finals, players seem to be happy with that as the sweet spot. And so I respect the players, and I think that's better for the audience and as a result too.
I think realistically, we're not going to see a 17-round season in the men's comp. Hopefully one day we'll get that in the women's comp, but I think we're not going to go backwards. I think if anything, we're going to be adding more games. I don't think we should play 34-round season. Will it happen one day? I actually think it probably will in about 50 years' time. I'm talking way down the track. I think load management, player management will be a thing. I think list sizes will catch up. The talent pool will get a lot bigger. I think it's something that'll happen way down the track. I could be wrong. Come back to me in 50 years' time if I'm wrong on this one. Let me know in the comments. Bookmark this video, and in 50 years' time, if YouTube's still around, and let me know all about it.
We'll be sitting in a nursing home, rocking back and forth, going, I told you.
Yeah. Oh, bloody well, I told you that. And everyone's like, have another tablet.
Here, take 10 of them.
10. You burnt it. What am I up to? Where am I up to? I think I've asked this question. Should clubs be allowed to use all listed players in the game? I might have asked that kind of question last week.
Yeah,
So
it kind of links in with the bench.
Yeah, it
thing.
sort of does. It sort of
Falls
does.
into that a little bit.
All right, I'm going to skip because I reckon this one's
So the answer to that is no, they shouldn't.
Yes. Is there a place for a national reserves competition? Now, momentum is building, Paul. Have you heard things? There's a lot more talk. Port Adelaide has joined the VFL. Yes. I feel like this is happening. I've been a strong advocate on this for probably 5 years now. I want to see our new draftees play for the club, wear the club colours, not wear some VFL waffle,
Northern Bull Ants
sample, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You want to play for the club. Now, whether that's in the ones or the twos, clearly everyone wants to play ones, but if you can't do that, at least you want to wear the club colours, for God's sake. That's my strong opinion. I think you know where I stand on this one.
Yeah, I think it works. I guess the challenge around the whole thing now, like, does that mean that the VFL, because I assume if every team had its AFL reserves and they're all playing the same thing, that's probably just, the AFL twos rather than the VFL, because God help us, you don't need the interstaters losing their minds if you still call it the VFL.
No.
So the VFL teams, the Sandful teams, the Waffle teams, etc., they all then exist still just in their state league levels.
Yeah.
But the problem you've got, I guess, at that point is that the AFL lists are what they are. You don't have enough players to populate an AFL team, so your list sizes need to go up, which then goes back to the depth thing from before.
There's other models you could use, I suppose, to bring.
So unless they're willing to increase list sizes, but that would need to be significant as well.
Supplementary players, maybe, yeah. There's some creativity needed, but and there's massive costs for flying people all over the country.
Because then you're still making.
I assume the Cats get on a plane to play West Coast. I assume the twos are jumping on the same plane to play West Coast as well.
Well, yeah, I presume that happens. So that works there. But then what happens with like your AFL twos? So your club's been hit by, say, your West Coast this year, for example, or 2023 now, I guess. You got absolutely decimated with injury. You almost didn't have any players left on your list to work with, which means you don't have a list for your AFL twos team. So you're just forfeiting every week, or you're just recruiting everyone from the Waffle, which means you completely disintegrate that competition as well. So I don't think that, the list sizes aren't enough to make that happen. The depth of talent isn't there yet. It sounds really nice, but we need to get to 2050, and that Australian population's at 40 plus million or whatever it is that we hear it's going to be, which is an awful gross sounding number.
25 years away still.
Because I just don't think the depth of talent is there to unlock that, whilst they're not killing the next level down, which is the state level stuff afterwards.
I think it's happening in the next 7 to 10 years. I think it's not that far away. Well, whether it should or shouldn't, that's No,
that's fine. I think it can, but then at that point, I guess they're all they're all still affiliated with team within their own state, because they need to be able to top it up with Geelong VFL players or whatever. Port Adelaide still needs to have a Port Adelaide team, in the Sandful, and Freo needs to still have their affiliated team and all that sort of stuff, which then still becomes a problem for those local competitions, because if I use, say, any of the other states, I guess technically, Freo's associated with one club, West Coast associated with the other. They draw players for the senior level teams because injuries occur, and those teams suddenly start to get smashed every week because all their best players are going up and they don't have the depth. So suddenly a team, they're just it completely disintegrates that competition as well. So there's layers to it.
There's definitely layers to it. There's definitely heaps to unpack, and so many different things that could go on, different types of models that you could use. Other sports do different things as well, like 10-day contracts and all this other stuff. So, pardon me. Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's coming, but how they handle it, I don't know. Watch this space, because I think this talk won't die down. I think we'll hear more and more about the reserves comp especially with Port Adelaide making the move in the last few months to join
Yeah.
the VFL. I think
It's interesting.
you're going to get one more team makes the move. It's like, well, we kind of have it. We kind of have it anyway. So, yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. All right, where am I up to? 2 more questions to go. Does the AFL finals system make sense to casual fans? I don't. If I'm not an AFL fan and someone says to me, okay, so first place fourth, fifth place eighth, and then you flip it over, blah, blah, blah. I just don't get it. I watch so much football. I live and breathe footy. I know how it works, but if you're trying to engage casuals, I don't know, and explain to them how a final system works, to me, it's absolute dog's breakfast. What are your thoughts?
See, I don't see that. Your top eight's just cut in half, and then it's first and last, and second and third, and same idea for the bottom half of the top 8. And
I want one person.
The weird bit is the next round where, like, and we've kind of got the visuals, and it always looks ugly where you've got your 2 things in parallel, and suddenly they cross over to play there because they're on the opposite sides of the draw. But I mean, it makes sense in principle. You know, you lost, and I'm just going to go on to play that same team again in a week.
Yeah.
So
you play them again in the grand, you lose, and then you play them again in the grand final.
Yeah, you get your opportunity for redemption at the grand final.
You can actually win back in the day, you could win the wooden spoon and still win a grand final. I think Fitzroy's the only team that ever did that in the war, during the war period, 1914 or something like that.
Pulled a few strings to bring everyone back from the war just so they could
something like that. Somehow found a way, but they'll claim it. That's fine. I don't know. I like the tennis is coming up soon, and it's pretty straightforward in the tennis, isn't it? It's like you've got your seeded sort of arrangement, the tournament sort of draw, and then you get to, if all the good players are still there, you've got, first versus eighth and second versus seventh and so on and so on. And to me, that makes sense to someone that actually doesn't really pay attention to footy 24/7.
No, and it makes sense to have a similar sort of thing like that. I guess, it's the problem is, I think the way it's structured is to ensure that the contests are as close as possible.
Yeah.
First v eighth in a footy game is a blowout. It could potentially be a blowout. First versus eighth in a test game.
Maybe that's the right. Maybe that's your right as the first team to have an easy game in the finals.
The AFL gets to dictate it, so things not about their rights. It's about what's our priority. Well, we want a spectacle. We want a competition.
Tell me another sport with a final structure like what we've got. I don't think there is another one. I think every other sport, it's a pretty straightforward first versus eight kind of model.
Yeah, no, I agree, but it also means, and I guess, like, if we think about it purely through the lens of a spectacle, our finals are more engaging than what the first round of the NBA playoffs are, for example, or something like that. It only starts to get heated towards the end as the riffraff have been cut out. But you get this opportunity in our model for these great contests between 1 and 4 and 2 and 3, but also some great contests between those teams. And then GWS gets a sniff after a great first win, and then they come on and they win the next thing against a team there that sends Melbourne. Was it Melbourne? Who'd they beat in straight sets? Was it Melbourne or Port Adelaide? No, they beat Port Adelaide in straight sets. Suddenly, you've got this momentum for a team that was actually in the bottom half of the ladder that you can't get. And also, because you sorry, not that you can't, but you're less likely to get, because in the alternative structure, they're playing the top ranked team, who's probably the best team in the comp. They're number one for a reason at that point, and maybe they smack them around and it's over. So the theatre's there. Like I think there's more to it than just the simplicity of accessibility, I guess.
And maybe we save this one for another time, but I think if you hear talk about wild card rounds and all that sort of stuff as well, that completely changes.
That's an interesting one. That's a
feature completely change. But then that adds, because I don't want to lose a final. I don't want to lose. I mean, what have we got? 9 finals every year at the moment. You don't want to lose anything. I think if anything, you want to add. Maybe not add more, but that's a whole nother conversation, because you get all different viewpoints on that one. Yeah, it's more engaged clubs that encourage clubs in the middle part of the ladder to keep fighting to the end and not bottoming out.
But also, and last year, and I go back to the NBA, but last year was the first time that they tried the play-in model, which is obviously what we're talking about. That is the wild card, essentially.
I'm not sold on it, though. Yeah.
But they tried it once, and the Lakers got through, and then they went all the way to play in the conference finals.
Well, Miami got through. Didn't Miami go a couple of years ago? Was it Miami that went really deep from a?
But there wasn't a play-in. They were just last. Last year was the first of the Last year was the first of the playing years.
Okay.
And that
All
was,
right.
that was where the Lakers.
I'll take your word for that.
The Heat got in there from 8th or something like that in their
Something
side.
like that. Yeah. That's right. All right. Last question. Should there be a bye prior to the grand final? Now, currently we get a bye after the final round of home and away. I think we've got 24 rounds of footy, something like that. Anyway, so do we move the bye to the week before the grand final, have like a 2-week sort of build up like they do in the NFL over in America? It's a massive thing. Get the hype going. I think in AFL we lose a bit of momentum there, but should we keep the bye where it is? Should we have a bye at all? Should we just keep rolling and not lose any momentum whatsoever? What are your thoughts?
So you talk about how obviously the NFL, as an example, has this entire build-up over the course of 2 weeks, and there's so many off-field theatrics that we don't have. So unless we could get that sort of thing going, then I don't want a pre-grand final bye, because you're right, the momentum just disappears. Right now, you do have the momentum kind of you lose a bit of momentum for the men's comp in that week off, but the AFL goes, okay, well, the women's are starting, so they can there's your footy fix. And for a whole bunch of teams who are maybe done for the season, you've got the team now to latch onto again. And at least it means all the teams are going in fresh for the first week of finals. But yeah, I don't think we can have a pre-grand final bye yet, because we just don't have that off-field stuff right.
We don't have it right.
I shouldn't say right, but like we don't have what the NFL has.
I think we have some elements. I think we have an opportunity, and this won't happen, but I think there is an opportunity to schedule the women's competition so that their grand final is the week before the men's grand final. So that is one event. Another event could be the Brownlow medal on a Friday or a Saturday night, more of a rather than a Monday night. I mean, people love that. There's probably heaps of people out there that love it being on a Monday night. I think it just works perfectly on a Friday or a Saturday night.
No, I'd love it to be there. Some of my favorite Brownlow medals are me getting absolutely who cares at this point? I've sworn rat shit a couple times for the Brownlow, and you can't do that when you're working. I got away with that because I was off on teachers' games at the time. That was a big night. But yeah.
I think you could have an EJ Witten game, and I reckon you could probably even squeeze in an under-18 All-Stars. We've got a draft a few weeks away. Let's get a look at some of these kids that everyone keeps hyping up. Let's have a look at Harley Reid, for example, in an All-Stars game that's televised on a Friday night, for example, or it's a double header. It's the EJ Witten and the All-Stars game, and then Saturday night we've got our Brownlow medal, and Sunday afternoon we've got the AFLW Grand Final. There's a lot of, the AFL loves, I think the AFL is going to stay with extending the season for 6 or 7 weeks beyond the men's grand final. So there's more footy content throughout the year. And I think in some ways I've enjoyed that. In other ways, as a content creator like we are, I've actually wanted to probably turn off and have a bit of a break. But we sort of really care about the Cats, and we wanted to sort of see that through. But I'd much prefer, for the seasons to align a lot more than what they do as well.
Yeah, maybe the women's grand finals in the pre-finals bye for the men's.
Yeah, something like that. So
yeah,
there's some options there. It's going to require a lot of time to get it right. But I think we keep a bye. I just don't know if it's in the right spot at the moment. I'd much prefer the bye before the grand final. And I think you can do a few things in that week before the grand final.
Well, it's good for cast players and those sort of things, and injuries. You give them an opportunity. Max Holmes would have played the grand final if we had the bye.
100%. Yep.
But
all that you're overly focused on getting teams in the bottom half of the 8. Let's just say, someone's got a hamstring injury. Who cares? They're in the bottom half of the 8. I want to see the best players from the 2 grand final teams play. I don't care about 7th and 8th in the ladder getting their best players back. That's my opinion.
Maybe they're 7th and 8th because they've had a tough run of injuries, so it gives that team a chance to actually play at their best.
I know. The marquee game's the grand final for me, and you want your best players there. And that's where I'd be. If you're going to give them a bye, give it to them before that, get all the best players back. And I think there's enough content there. Maybe not now, but I think if we can actually start a conversation about this, I think over time it's something that we can do. I think eventually the Brownlow does get moved. But anyway, I can keep talking about it. I could talk a whole episode about the Brownlow medal because I've got lots of thoughts on that. But Paul, I think we're going to wrap it up unless you've got any other thoughts on buys and grand finals and such and such.
No, I think we've done that one pretty well, I think.
And we've done 3 episodes in one sitting for those that are still with us and know how this actually works out in reality. So thank you if you've watched us this long. It's about 90 minutes for Paul and I tonight. So we're I don't know if we'll do another one tonight, but I think we might pull the pin. I'll chat to Paul at the end of this one and we'll see how we go. But if that's it for us, I think, Paul. So we'll say goodbye and as always, go Cats. And we'll see you on the next one, everyone. Take care.
Enjoy. See you guys.